Thank you, Tina. I'm so glad to be with you today. Oh, your bright and shiny faces, and I see ones that I recognize, and I love seeing ones I don't, too, so I can get to know you. And I love that we're together today as we get ready for what's to come, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? The holiday season. Dun, dun, dun. For me, it's my favorite time of year. I love the light of it. I love the goodness in it. But I know that it is also a little bit stressful, right? Whether you have family that you're getting together with this week, where it's like some of it will be wonderful and some of it, there might be some tension. And we get to talk about what we're grateful for this week. But I find that, I love that Thanksgiving is all about gratitude, but I don't know that we get really, really grateful anymore. We're really focused on whether the turkey's done and if the stuffing's just right this year. And sometimes when it's time to do a blessing or whatever before we have the big feast, it's like, make it 20 seconds so that everything doesn't get cold. So we do some surface gratitude, right? And my intention for today is for us to get a little bit deeper so that we can move into this holiday season feeling so, so grateful for what's happening in our lives, what's happened in our lives, and what's to come. So let me give you a little bit of background about me, and then I'm going to do a reading from a book of mine that just came out, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that because it's a fun story. And then we will get super grateful. So I am an intuitive advisor, and I have not always been. But I have always had spirit with me, just as you all do. But as a young girl, I would see and hear from angels and spirits. I didn't know what to call them. I thought everybody saw them. So I didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. And we had such joyful exchanges. They were just so full of love for me, for everyone in my orbit. And we'd play, and I would sing to them. I still have such vivid memories of them sitting in the backyard and listening to my concerts as I'd stand on the picnic table. And I remember, actually, at one point, my mom, my wonderful mom who's here, saying that our next-door neighbor got such a kick out of watching me out the window singing for a pretend audience. And I was like, pretend? What's she talking about? They can't see them? It was my very first inkling that maybe I was seeing something that not everybody was. And then as I got older, I came home from school, apparently in first grade, and said, who are these people who are just standing over my desk? Can I ask them to give me some space? And my mom very, kindly, open-mindedly, I'm sure was freaking out inside, like, what is she talking about? But did not make me feel scared or nervous, or what are you talking about? Or you're just pretending, you're just imagining things. So I was blessed with having a childhood where I had parents who didn't tell me that I was making it up. And yet I also had plenty of experiences where I knew that I was different, that what I was seeing was not the norm, maybe shouldn't talk about it. I wanted to fit in with friends and teachers and then, colleagues. I wanted to live a normal life. And so I tried to stuff it down. I tried to shut out the voices, and I did a pretty good job of it for a good decade or so, while I climbed that corporate ladder and worked in communications, and I always knew I wanted to work in communications. And I loved different mediums, and I think that it's funny now that it's like, oh, it's just leading me to medium shit and communicating in a different way. So I didn't know as I was growing up, and when I'd have experiences even as an adult, that I was sort of being followed and carried by and supported by the same circle of angels and spirits, guides. I just figured it was, random acts of benevolence. Then I went through a really harrowing period of my life when my firstborn came. His name is Ryder. He's now 12, almost 13. And I had a happy, normal, lovely little life in South Minneapolis with a hubby and a little cute dog and a nice big job. And then I had this baby. And my birth experience was traumatic. And I came out of it feeling like a changed person, feeling like I was not capable of mothering that child. And it took a long time before I was diagnosed with postpartum depression and PTSD. And I went through a couple of really dark years of feeling inadequate in everything and diving into my work and making that the only place that I really put any passion into. I forgot everything that I liked to do. One of the stories that I tell is of being with Ryder at musical trolley, a class where a bunch of parents and their toddlers came, and we would play with instruments each week. And I remember in the first session of that musical trolley class, they had us go in a circle, and the teacher said, parents and kids, share one thing that you love to do. And I panicked because I couldn't think of anything. And I listened to each parent and then child and parent and child go around the circle, thinking they're coming to me, and I can't think of anything I love to do. And my son, sitting in my lap, said, I love to play with trucks. And I said, me too. And if that's not a red flag for you, I don't know what it is, because I never loved to play with trucks. And it was for me. I thought, uh-oh, something's going on here. How do I not know anything that brings me happiness? And I started on a healing journey, lots of therapy, lots of psychotherapy, lots of hypnotherapy, anything you can think of. And as I was going through that, coming out of that, guess what happened? Spirit got louder. Because I was opening up, so they were like, finally, maybe she can start to hear us a little bit clearer again. But it freaked me out. I would go to work and hear things about my colleagues and hear that my assistant was about to leave, was about to quit, or hear about somebody's parent or whatever. And that's a little crazy making when you're just trying to share spreadsheets with people. So I had to really fine-tune it and figure out what was going on. At first, I really wanted to stuff it down again, because I still wanted to fit in. But Spirit wasn't having it. They were like, no, it's time. You got to start having more and more experiences, hearing what we have to say. And it wasn't until I started to do little mini readings for friends where I started to realize the impact of it, that it wasn't really about me, it was about what was coming through and how it might help others. I was at the North Shore at an artist retreat, I don't know, probably 8 years ago or so, and they asked me to do little readings with them. And I was shocked because I thought I'd done a really good job of hiding my connection. I was like, when I finally came out publicly as an intuitive, it was hysterical because everyone was like, yeah, that's not big news. It was news to me. It was a big, big deal to me, but everyone else was like, yeah, we've already known that. about you. Come up with something else more shocking. So when I'm up at the North Shore with these friends and feeling safe with them, feeling like I can just let whatever comes through come through and not have to worry what they're going to think about me. Those sessions that I did with them on the rocks were so transformative for many of them. Tears, shifts, major changes for them. And it was so powerful for me because I saw what was coming through was not of me, but was coming truly through me for their benefit. And that was sort of a wake-up call for me, that I had to start listening. I had to start letting that stuff come through so that it could be used in service to others. So I started to do readings, speaking, and I would always call upon Spirit. And Spirit is this circle for me of angels and guides that I work with, ascended wise ones. They're super smart, and they're funny, and they're full of joy, and they still love when I sing and dance. Not on picnic tables anymore. And so I would call on them and say, okay, we have so-and-so here today on the phone or whatever, or I'm speaking to this group, come through me, please, help me. I didn't have the experience of them coming to me and asking for my assistance until a year ago, last fall. I have a dear friend, Lori Portka, who's an artist out east, and she was actually one of those women who were on the rocks up at Lake Superior those years ago. And she was working on a big publishing project where she had to paint over 100 paintings for this project, and she'd been working on it all summer long, like was just immersed in it, because that's a ton of work creating that many original paintings. And they'd already been seen by the people that she thought were kind of vetting them. They'd already gone through changes, and that's always a little, hard for an artist when it's like, no, really you should add more blue to that sky. And as an artist, you're like, no, I put the blue there, that exact blue, for a reason. So she had already gone through sort of the strain of that and thought that she was good, thought that everything that she had turned in was approved, and I started seeing visions of her work sort of flash by me. And I figured Spirit was letting me know that we were going to work together somehow, some way, at some point. But because she was so deep into that, there was no way I was going to tell her that. I wasn't going to say, hey, I know you're super crazy busy with this project, but I'd like to work with you too, and I don't know what on. So I held back telling her, and Spirit thought that was funny. So one day she texted me in October of last year, devastated, that this publishing company had just rejected 8 more of her paintings. Just rejected them. Not even like, could you change this? They're like, nope, not good enough. And so she sends this text and says, I don't know what to do. I can't believe this. I'm devastated that they've done this. And I was standing in my kitchen, and it was like a lightning bolt went through me. I had to hold myself up on my kitchen counter, and I heard Spirit say, those 8 paintings are for you, for a program called Infinite Purpose, and we begin November 8th. What? I was like, wait, wherever you are, more details, please. And they just left. So I texted Lori back and said, I think those paintings are for us. Spirit says there's a program starting November 8th. And that was just weeks away. And luckily, Lori's the kind of person and the kind of friend who was like, keep me posted. Let me know if there's any more details that come. So we waited patiently, I thought, for about a week. Oh, I made that up. Nothing else has come through. I've done sessions, and I've said, like, by the way, any more details? And they'd just be off. Nope. And then finally, about a week later, they said, we're ready to give you instructions. So I sat down at my computer and just transcribed what they gave me, and it was a page and a half of instructions about this program. That they would be disseminating messages for the last 8 weeks, 1 day a week, every Saturday they intended to do it, because we're all more relaxed. We're all more in receiving mode after the work week. And so I ran to my calendar to see if they were actually right. Was it 8 weeks? And it was. 8 Saturdays were left in the year. They said, you will send it out via the internet, and we did it as an email, and that each message would correlate with the paintings that already existed. Lori sent me a couple of them via text, but I hadn't seen most of them. And they said, you won't have to do marketing. You won't have to go try to find the people. They'll be called to it. So just put something up that says it's coming. So we just put a page on my website that said, we don't know what's happening, but we think it's going to be good. And if you'd like to register, this is how you do it. And we had 250 people around the world sign up. We were floored by that many people found it and were trusting enough to say, yes, I need whatever's coming through. And so on November 8th, we started. Spirit would bring me messages. I would sit down, and it would feel like I was sitting at my computer for 15 minutes. And my husband would say, you've been in that room for 4 hours. And a message when I knew it wasn't even complete yet. During that week, leading up to each Saturday, I'd feel them come swirling around, saying they were ready to give more. And then I'd go back to the computer and just type with my eyes closed. So I'm sure some of the emails I sent out had some typos. So those 8 weeks were incredible. Not just because of what came through, and I wasn't even really connecting with what came through. I was so, focused on getting the messages that I didn't always even know what I was sending out. They would reference things in Lori's paintings that I'd never seen, and we'd be floored that they would name the colors or the scenery, and they would tell me, just let Lori know that it's the one, and it would be like, and they'd show it to me, like a girl in a yoga pose, or a mountain with some lights, and she'd know exactly which one it was. And they'd ask that there be several words, a line from their message written on that painting. So we did that. And what happened just bowled us over with the 250 people who were receiving those messages. They sent messages back. We also had a Facebook group where people were changed from even the first message, saying they could feel the vibration of it, deciding to leave 2-decade-long careers, deciding to travel around the world on trips to help others. I mean, life-changing ahas for one after another. And some of them were subtle changes that said it shifted everything for them, from misery into joy. For others, it was these tangible, like, oh, I have to leave my job now that I've been in securely for 20 years and go out and do this. We couldn't believe that in those 8 weeks that kind of change could happen. And we were quite frankly, kind of exhausted by it by the end of the 8 weeks, because it was such vibration, so much energy, and we were putting this stuff out. So we were incredibly grateful at the end of it for what had transpired, and we also just wanted to rest. But we could also feel the bigness of it. We could feel something else was probably coming. And it was several weeks into January when they came back and started showing images of a book. And so I went to Lori and said, all right, feels like it's supposed to be a book. I don't know if it's just the messages, if it's more. Who's going to take this book? How do you go out and find a publisher that says, yes, that sounds perfect? 8 messages that just came through you in 8 weeks. And we all know that there are books like that, but we were thinking, how do we fit in? How do we be traditional? How do we do the conventional thing and get this book out there? And Spirit said, just begin to have writing sessions on the phone, and we will lead you and tell you what to share. You need to include your stories as part of it. So we did that. We had, during our first call together, we had a local agency called Wise Inc. Some of you have probably heard of them. Reach out and say, we'd love to work on a book with you. Would you? So during that first call, I had, we knew who we were going to publish with. And they're a self-publishing agency. So we knew that this was something that we were going to have to put out there on our own if we wanted it to get out there quickly and really wanted to fit our vision of it being a treasure, of it being something that was truly of Spirit. So we just came out with the book. It's been a very exciting month. It's called Infinite Purpose, Care Instructions for Your True Calling. And I knew that I wanted to read an excerpt from it to you today, but all week long, I couldn't figure out when I was thinking about it what to share. So finally, I'm a slow learner. Finally, I said, oh, Spirit, do you have a suggestion? And they said very quickly, yes, we'd like you to read the parable. So this is, you get the 8 messages, and then there's also our stories. There are stories of inspiring women who went through the course and have changed their lives. There's reflection sheets. But within the second message that they delivered, there is this story, this parable, that's several pages long. So I was like, thanks for giving me a super long thing to read. But I trust that it's what we're all supposed to connect to today. I'm going to take a swig of water before I get into it. And I will just say that oftentimes when I read Spirit's words, my inflection and stuff can change. I don't know if it'll happen today because it's this story, but just so you're not spooked. Ready? Once there was a man who lived by the sea. He lived a fair life with few grievances but little glory. One night, in a vivid dream, he was told of treasure to be found upon the shore. A messenger had come to him as he slept, cloaked in velvet and dripping in jewels so shiny the man could almost see his reflection in them. Your path to riches will be a story of the ages, the messenger told him. Go in the light of the rising sun, upon the shores of the rolling sea, and trust that buried treasure will reveal itself to you. You shall provide for your family in unimaginable ways, and also enrich the lives of those you do not know. As soon as he awakened, the man went to the sea and walked along its shore. For more than a year, this was his practice, in sunshine and rainstorms, to walk barefoot through deep sand, his head hung low as he scanned the ground for buried treasure. Every shell he found was empty, save for strings of seaweed and grains of sand. Every coin he spotted was rusted and worn, worth no more than face value. He kept walking and waiting and watching. One day, his quiet walk at dawn was interrupted by an unfamiliar voice. He looked up to see a woman walking briskly toward him, waving wildly to get his attention. "I have seen you out my window many mornings," she told him, "and I must know what it is you're looking for." The man felt panic rising in him. He could not tell this perfect stranger the nature of his pursuits, for she might begin looking too and steal his yet unfound treasure. He had not even told his wife or daughters the real reason for his morning walks, for fear that they might laugh at his dream or discourage him from continuing on. His dream was his secret, as was the treasure it promised. "It is not for you to know," he told the woman, and continued walking. She was not satisfied, for she was burning with curiosity and was now irritated by his secrecy. She pleaded with him, insisting she was trustworthy. She followed behind him, guessing aloud what he was looking for. Something lost? Something living? Something ancient? The more she talked, the more annoyed the man grew. "Leave me alone," he snapped. "Right now, all I want is some peace and quiet." This angered the woman, who wanted nothing more than to know his story. "If that is what you want," she replied, "and all I want to know is what you are looking for, then I'll walk with you and talk to you until you tell me. Once you do, I'll have my answer and will leave you here so that you can have your peace and quiet." The man walked for miles, and the woman kept pace. She talked while he fumed. Her voice cut through his concentration. Her stories clouded his thoughts, and her opinions clashed with his own. He refrained from picking up shells or coins so as not to clue her in to his daily mission. He grew increasingly unfocused. Not only could he not pay attention to what was beneath his feet, but he felt hot in the sun and small beside the ocean. For the first time in all of his walks, he felt weary. Finally, he threw up his hands and shook his fist. "You win! I cannot focus with you here," he said sternly to the woman by his side. "Then tell me what it is you're looking for," she said eagerly. "I'm searching for treasure," the man sighed, and reluctantly told her of his dream and the message he'd received. The woman hung on to his every word, fascinated by his story. "But it could have simply been a figment of your imagination," she replied wide-eyed. "Why did you believe the message?" "Because I awakened with the power of it pulsing through me," he replied. "So you seek the unknown without fail every day?" The woman almost whispered this, entranced by the notion of it. "I do. For what if the treasure appears on the day I give up?" The man noticed as he spoke that his fatigue was fading. Telling this perfect stranger about his dream and answering her questions stirred renewed energy in him. "But isn't it monotonous," the woman asked, "to walk the same beach at the same time every day?" Her inquisitiveness seemed genuine, and the man could feel his prior irritation with her lifting from his heart. "To the contrary," he replied. "Every walk is different. The sun never looks the same rising up over the sea, and every morning the sea places new sand beneath my feet. There are days when it feels like a dream to be one with the sea and sky, to feel as though the birds are singing just to me. Even though I have not found my treasure, I feel richer for having taken the walk." The woman stood in silence, soaking in his words. "Thank you for sharing it with me," she finally said. "I will cherish this walk with you." "And I," the man said, "am pleasantly surprised I can say the same to you." And with that, the woman left the beach. Standing in the peace and quiet, the man felt lighter somehow, as if a burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He headed home, emboldened by sharing his story with a perfect stranger, and promptly revealed to his wife the real reason for his walks at dawn. She did not laugh or scoff, as he had feared, but encouraged him to continue. At least he was getting fresh air daily, she said, and at best his dream might come true one day. Weeks passed, and the man continued his daily walks at sunrise alone, until one morning, when he arrived at the beach just before dawn, he noticed the silhouettes of 3 boys standing near the sea. They ran toward him. "Excuse me, sir," said one of the boys. "Are you the dreamer?" He was taken aback and looked at them quizzically. The second boy asked, "Are you the man who follows his dreams each day without fail?" The man felt his heart skip a beat. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "but how could you know of me?" "Everyone knows of you," the third boy answered enthusiastically. "We have all heard the story of the woman who walked with you once and was forever changed. She calls you the dreamer and tells of your wisdom but not your whereabouts. So we have been searching for you." One of the boys held out a small bag. "We bring a small offering, hoping you might let us walk with you too." The man loosened the velvet cord, which kept the cloth bag closed, and peeked inside. There were 2 glistening coins, 3 fresh oranges, and a handful of sweets his children would love. Treasures. Sheer delight and awe pulsed through his veins, and he laughed out loud. He began to walk and gestured to the boys, inviting them to follow. The boys rushed to his side and showered him with questions as they walked through the sand, curious about patience and purpose, faith and dreams. "We are rich," they exclaimed at the end of the walk, delighted by the insights they had gained and eager to share with others. The man took the bag of treasures home and, quite amused by the way in which his dream had come true, told his wife what had happened. Over dinner that night, their family delighted in the small bag of treasures. "To following our dreams," the man said, raising his glass. The next morning, the man awakened before dawn, as had become habit for him. Instinctively, he headed down to the beach, despite having already seen his dream come to fruition. When he arrived, he was surprised to find 6 people waiting on the beach, each carrying a knapsack of small treasures, jewels and gems, coins and treats. They walked with him as the awakening sky burned orange and sparkled lavender. Each morning after, the crowd grew, following in the man's footsteps, listening to his stories, and offering tokens of their appreciation. "We have more good fortune than I could have ever imagined," his wife gasped as he arrived home with more gifts. "What did you say to that woman that made such an impression?" she wondered. "I do not know," he admitted. "I only shared the truth of my journey and the treasures I'd already found in it. In fact, I had been worried she would take my dream and run with it." His wife smiled and said, "Well, thank goodness she did." So in that chapter, Spirit goes on to talk about the importance of us telling our truth, of giving voice to our visions. But when I read it again this week, knowing that I was going to share it with you, another thing came forward for me. And that is how often we go out looking for treasure and miss what's showing up for us. Because we have a specific idea, right, of what we're going after. Whether it's a certain kind of abundance, or a perfect relationship, or an amazing experience. So we start to envision and get the details of it. Just like that man figured, I'm looking for buried treasure. I should keep my head down and just be looking at the sand to see what comes up. And he did it day after day after day. And only when that woman asked him to begin to share about it, and he decided finally to do that, did it become apparent that there were other treasures, other goodness, other good things that he was experiencing by listening to his own inner guidance, by connecting to the sunsets, to the sand beneath his feet. And so often, we do the very same thing, don't we? We walk forward just looking at the path ahead of us, sure that we know exactly what we need, sure that we know exactly what it is we're looking for. And it causes us to miss all of these treasures that keep showing up for us. In my own life, one example I can think of is with the birth of my second son, Truman. So I was really scared after having that traumatic birth experience with Ryder years before of having another baby. I didn't think I wanted to have another baby. Did not want to put myself through that. And then, suddenly I was expecting another baby. And I said, okay, I know I can do this, but please, universe, please, God, make it absolutely the opposite. Make this baby so completely different than my firstborn that there's no chance that I would experience the same thing. So I figured it has to be a girl, right? That's the most logical opposite, right? So I went to the OB, my mom and my husband were with me, and they said, it's a boy, and I lost it. I sobbed in the hallway, thinking, no, I cannot deliver another boy because then it'll be the same. Everything's going to happen the same way. Of course, I could not change the gender of that baby, and that little boy came, and the delivery was completely different, and the baby was so different. He was this little angel baby who just looked with these wide eyes, hardly ever cried, slept amazingly, and it took a while before I realized that everything about my experience with him was different. Ryder, because of his traumatic birth, had a lot of issues. He was super colicky. He's a stubborn little guy. And so it took a while for me to realize, wow, these are two completely different human beings, different spirits. I did get the opposite. But it took, really a couple of years before I realized that that had happened. I'd been so focused on what it needed to look like and wasn't noticing how different it really was and what a gift he is in our lives. The way that the universe brought him in and said, yeah, we'll make this different so that you've got goodness with both of them in totally different ways. Can any of you think of things that have appeared for you as you've been looking for something else? As you've been focused on one area or one specific outcome, and yet there was something else that came forward, something good that came from something that felt hard? Is there anybody who would want to share one of those things? Tina has a microphone. And I would love it if someone would be willing to share your truth. Give voice to that gratitude. Because it is enriching. There's one back there, Tina. Thank you. It is enriching not only for yourself, but for the rest of us to hear that goodness sometimes comes out of the blue. Oh, I think it just needs to be turned on.
It same happens with me, absolutely same, but instead of boys, I deliver girls in Russia. And same, it was so hard, first one. And second one, it was absolutely different experience. It was girl.
Yeah.
But during Evel's delivery, I ate chocolate. It was how much more easier.
Yeah.
I ate chocolate and everything was, and absolutely you're right, it was different spirit came.
Yeah.
And spirit was more easygoing. And she same, she now grow up, she's married, and she more easygoing than first spirit.
Yeah.
So same, it's going to be hard spirit came to, and more. So, and she's married now. She's playing music. Yesterday we had beautiful home concert. She was playing fortepiano, piano, so beautiful. And my small girl, my third daughter, she's 6 years old, seven. She was dance, and my this middle daughter, she was playing. Younger daughter was dance, and we have beautiful concert, home concert show. So, just
how beautiful! And that wouldn't have happened if you'd gotten your way, right? If you had gotten the boy, exactly the thing that, right? Or you wanted a boy, right? And you got a girl instead. Is that? Yeah, 3 girls. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
I do multi-level marketing business, and to get to the next level, we get a trip to Ecuador. So I put on my mirror, I'm going to Ecuador. Well, I went to Ecuador this year on a humanitarian trip, but not with my business. And I was so sad, I'm working my business really hard to make it to the next level. And I shorted by just a few $1,000s, which was, but I was meant to go with this down group.
And I imagine your experience, the way you had it versus the trip you would have received, was quite different.
Oh, totally different. We were up in villages working, we saw 400 children. 6 dentists went, and it was a wonderful experience. Where if I would have gone, which I can go with the company this next year, it would have been totally business related,
right? And
not the sightseeing and the zip lining and all the fun stuff that we did on the side too. So it was, you gotta be careful what you ask for, is what I found out.
I love that. Anyone else feel compelled to share? Oh yes, great.
Thanks. I'm actually feeling my heart's beating really fast right now. Learning to speak my voice and In so many ways, my life story is similar to yours. What was most profound is after having moved into an apartment that had many portals from different dimensions, and my third eye opened like never before, and it scared the hell out of me. It was terrifying. And being that I didn't have the means to move, I had no choice but learn how to deal with it. And it was a long process, but I did learn tools to clear space and close portals and all that. And I also dealt with a chronic illness, a life-changing illness. And the combination of the two has really changed my life. I'm thrilled to be alive, and I had Spirit speak to me the first time, like you mentioned, just recently, and that was really powerful.
Mhm.
I had no choice but to do what was being asked, and as you read from the book, although I didn't have this clear, okay, do this next, but I feel the same, and my body became really heavy,
Mhm.
and speaking my truth has
Yeah.
been such a big message, so I am here speaking my truth.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for doing that. These are powerful things when in the middle of it, it feels so hard. It feels so clunky. It feels like I don't know how I'm going to get there. And if we have tunnel vision about what it's going to look like, how people are going to react, what's going to happen if it doesn't go our way, then we don't get to see all of the gifts that come from that part of the journey, right? So this week, as we head into Thanksgiving, I encourage you to do a little treasure hunting, to look at your path and see where treasure has shown up that you were not expecting, to see what goodness has come out of hardness, has come out of hardship, to see where the universe played with you and said, oh, you want to go there? We'll find an even better way for you to get there. I hope that our time together helps you to do that. I know Tina's going to lead us in an offering, and we have a lovely song that's going to play, and then we'll come together for a blessing at the end. And I'm actually not going to have you hold hands quite yet. I know, I'm shaking things up. So I'd like for you to take your hands, actually, and put them in front of you. And I want you to envision a ball of light that you are holding. You can play with it, okay? I want you to feel the energy of it. And within this light is your path, is your purpose, is your innate goodness, your gifts, your treasures. All that has come to pass is within this ball of light, leading you into your bright future. And it is the light that you can give to others. The more you give, the more you feel it. The more you share, the more you feel compelled to reveal it. I want you to feel the energy between your hands. You might have to put your hands close together to feel the buzzing. Notice as you go back and forth. And you feel the energy of your light that you are holding. And now I'd like for you to, rather than hold hands, to put your hands up. Mom, I'm going to have you be like this to the person next to you. And feel the light that is moving from you into those next to you and coming to you. And it is circling around as we share this beam of bright light from one hand to the next, from one heart to the next. We are so powerful when we share our light, when we see the treasures, when we see that our path is illuminated by goodness. Your light is my light, and my light is yours. Let's say that together. Your light is my light. My light is yours. Again. Your light is my light. My light is yours. I wish you a wonderful, blessed week, everyone. Thank you for your light.